Hi, everyone. Today I have with me Rob Robertson. He is a contributing author for The Mortgage Manager Mastery, a book for new and experienced sales leaders in the financial sector. Rob wrote a terrific chapter titled Conflict Resolution, Turning Challenges into Opportunities. Rob is a senior vice president at First Citizens. He is the head of director of strategic sales for First Citizens. Previously, he was with PNC, Wells, and Chase and others. Rob, talk about the one big idea in your chapter.
Yeah, Pat, first of all, before I answer that question and talk about that idea, I want to commend and thank you. You stepped out there. This is where leadership matters. And I'm really excited about the book and what you've done and what you're going to continue to do in the mortgage space. I really believe we all stand on your shoulders, and I really am excited about the book. And so I'm excited to be here today.
Well, talk about the one big idea, and I certainly appreciate your kind words. But you wrote a terrific chapter that I don't think is really discussed enough. That it'd be great if everything just goes as you want it, but it doesn't. And the mortgage space is certainly that. And so, talk about the one big idea that you discussed in your chapter.
Yeah, the one big idea in chapter 22, by the way, is that conflict is not a threat to leadership. In my humble opinion, it's an invitation to elevate leadership. When approached with integrity, I like to say emotional intelligence, our values, especially our value-based courage, if you will, conflict to me becomes a powerful catalyst for growth. I think it elevates. I think it builds stronger relationships. I think it helps better decision making. I think it helps managers embrace the element or the elephant in the room. And to me, managers who embrace the conflict as an opportunity, and I say opportunity, Pat, I never say an issue. I say an opportunity because
Yeah.
it's an opportunity for us to be better leaders and better financial services, organizations. And it allows us to unlock higher levels of trust, higher levels of accountability, and ultimately higher levels of performance to our teams.
Well, I agree with you 100%, which leads to my next question, Rob. Talk about the what would managers, from your view, if they want to install this, certainly what activity can they do to really kind of fall into line with what you're talking about?
So if they do this, I think they should adopt something that I practice. And honestly, I practice this at home, believe it or not, with me and my wife. It's funny, but I call it the power of one. And it's something that I learned from a book I read about the DNA of relationships. The power of one is when you can control what you can control, and you can control your tone, you can control your response, you can control your values, you can control your accountability. And I just believe instead of reacting to the conflict, sometimes we should pause. I mean, I know we've all heard those saying, you may type the email, but don't send it.
Yeah.
For me, I take 24 hours to respond because I don't want to respond out of emotion. And that's leading myself first. And so that's what I would say. Lead yourself first, bring clarity, bring character into the conversation. And that single shift sometimes can initiate a more productive, positive dialogue. It reduces the emotions of the escalation and it models, in my humble opinion, the executive presence for the entire team.
Well, I think you said a lot of powerful comments, and I totally agree that it does have to start with the person. So, good point. So, let's talk about, especially you've been a long time in the mortgage space, and when you look at future leadership and opportunities in the next few years, how do you see this playing out?
Well, I think what excites me the most about future mortgage leadership, I mean, and what's funny, Pat, I would say in jest, there may be an AI version of Rob, right? And I could press a button and everybody would be happy with the way the tech world is going so rapid. But I think that leadership demands more humanity. I think it demands
Mhm.
more courage. I think it demands more connection. And I have to shift back to COVID. A lot of people are still getting used to being around people, and a lot of leaders and people are still managing and communicating through these, right? and they're not the human side of it. The connection has been lost. And so I think we're entering a season where leaders must navigate complexity,
Mhm.
regulation, technology, customer expectations, because we want to create a great customer experience. And I think we have to do that with two things, with empathy and with precision. I think that if leaders who thrive and who are most those who want to transform tension into trust, I think they can handle conflict with more integrity. And I like to say, I keep saying, having that professional integrity, because I think that matters as well.
Well, I agree with you 100%. We're going to have to do a podcast on that topic because I do think you're exactly right in many ways that we
And
kind
Pat,
of,
I got to say this. I do believe that, my chapter, again, 22, prepares managers, in my humble opinion, for the future. I think it equips them. I always say mindset. Equips them with the mindset. It equips them with some tools, tips, and tricks to have difficult conversations confidently, because sometimes we get insecure. We don't know what people are going to say. And
yeah.
I always say, hey, if I step on your toes, let's just say ouch and keep it moving, right? Because sometimes my toes are stepped on, but I try to encourage values based on decision making, based on that emotional discipline and the commitment to resilience. I think that's really important. And those skills, in my humble opinion, Pat, define the next generation of our mortgage leaders.
Yeah, great point. I certainly think I agree with you, as I said, 100%. So let's talk about some final takeaways that you want to share with our audience today.
Well, I think ultimately, my message is, and I learned this in college. I played professional sports before I got into financial services. And there's this one story that I love to share because it really helped define, me as a leader and my thought process. And that was, I remember doing my pro day, Pat, and we had all of the scouts and the player personnel came to my college just to talk and see me and work out. And the one thing I wanted to do, Pat, was put in my highlight tape. And I remember back then I had this big VHS tape. I put it in a VCR, and the player personnel person for the Eagles hit the eject button, and he threw the tape back to me. And he said to me, Rob, we're not here to see your highlights. We know you can play. That's why we're here. He said to me, "What are your lowlights? What are the lowlights that you have?" And I learned from that statement, that comment, that lowlights create your leadership.
Yeah.
It's the lowlight moments that create the highlight reel. And so when you're in a lowlight situation with a team member or a organization, and you can hit it and hit it head on, the power of one, like I just mentioned, and embrace the conflict, the opportunity, how great would it be when you get to the other side? I think moments like that stretch us, challenge us, and even break us often. And those experiences help prepare us and lead us to greater wisdom and greater purpose. I think that conflict is one of those moments when managers learn to stand on our values. We confront our challenges directly. We resolve the conflict with intention, and we don't just solve the problems, it shapes the culture, in my humble opinion. It inspires trust, and it also elevates the entire organization.
Well, I love it. And I love that you mentioned my team. So I think that was a double win today, Rob. So, anyway, thanks for sharing your thoughts and for our listeners today to get more insight into what Rob is talking about and all the insights in his chapter. It's really a terrific chapter. So, go to mortgagemanagermastery.com or Amazon. Thanks again, Rob.
Chapter 22. Pat, honestly, I want to thank all the leaders who participated.